Kaylee. Kaylee.
Hello?
I think I hear our theme song.
There's something different about it, though?
Yeah, a little bit. It's a little bit, it sounds like it's like on fire. It's a molten track.
Could that be because we're about to go into the Fire Nation?
It's unstoppable. It's on fire. That's Regis Philbin in spirit. Hello, and welcome back to another rip-roaring episode of Atlas Shrugged, the Avatar The Last Airbender podcast. My name is AJ.
And I'm Kaylee.
And we sit in the darkest recesses of a brick building in the Midwest watching episodes of Avatar The Last Airbender. That's what we do.
All of which I have seen many times over, and all of which AJ has seen pretty much never. This has been my favorite show since it aired on Nickelodeon in the early 2000s. So I've seen the episodes many times over. AJ, my husband, has not ever watched it all the way through. He has now seen up through season 1, book 1, episode 8, which is part 2 of the Winter Solstice. He may have seen a few other episodes because I watch it all the time and start in random sections, but he has seen episodes 1 through 8 for the first time through.
Through new eyes, I'm experiencing and appreciating Avatar The Last Airbender. Much like a curry, Avatar The Last Airbender blooms with flavor as the meal goes on, as I'm finding. And this episode is no different. I mean, really watch the episode. Boom, let's talk about it. Episode 8, Avatar, Roku. For starters, who is this magnificent force of nature, this titan, this maelstrom, this Avatar Roku?
I know.
Kaylee for the win.
Avatar Roku, aka The Last Avatar. The most recent life of the Avatar before our young Aang. A firebender, no less. That's your guy.
A firebender,
also
yes.
Seen as the statue whose eyes light up in lots of temples across the land.
And so, what do the current day firebenders think of this Avatar Roku? How does he fit in with the current firebenders' plan?
Other than the fact, well, we don't know about the fire sages yet. That's a little bit in the episode.
The fire sages, right. We're fast forwarding a little bit. Let's go back to how the episode begins. It's kind of like a Star Wars movie, like it's a aerial fight scene, you know?
Yeah.
Dodging sulfur left and right.
We have to admit we've watched this episode a few times because life has been crazy, so we've been like, let's do an episode, and we've probably watched this particular episode like 4 times now.
We've been itching to make this episode, and this episode of the show Avatar is super freaking cool, so we wanted to do this episode right. That's why we've been like, would you say stewing in contemplation about sort of the philosophical positioning of this Avatar?
Toasting stew flutes, no less. Yes, we've spent some time on this episode.
Yes, we have.
So yeah, let's enter the battle. We've got a few different perspectives, all basically entering enemy territory. There is Aang and gang.
Aang and gang flying before the end of the solstice because they got to reach the crescent-shaped island by the solstice so that Aang can speak to Roku when the light touches his eyes on the statue, and then all will be well. He has to meet him in the spirit world at that time because this world operates on cataclysmic moments in human history. Like my mouth is on fire with the Holy Spirit or whatever. if you're not feeling it. Like, you can't just fake that. What?
That's interesting. Yeah, I was going to ask you where you were going with, like, do you feel?
and you wouldn't really be faulted for asking me where I was going with that, because sort of dubious. Let's say dubious. So, I mean, basically, at the beginning of this episode, there's balls of sulfur flying in the air, where meanwhile, the Avatar flying through the sky, literally surveying, like, the conflict and how it's manifested in the seas from above, and being like, did I do that? Right? Like, how does it feel to be the Avatar flying in and seeing these people? Are they fighting over your existence?
I mean, basically. So we don't know a whole lot about Avatar Roku yet. That's why we're, like, pretty stoked to go talk to him, hopefully. But that gives you an idea of how maybe Avatar Roku has been idolized in the society to a point of pride, I think. Because Aang is the Avatar, yet he cannot go visit the temple of the Avatar without being in enemy territory, without him being hunted.
Right. So what does that say about the world he's trying to save?
So Aang was gone for 100 years, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people lost hope and didn't believe that the Avatar was ever coming back. So in that way, I think that a lot of the Fire Nation's pride in Avatar Roku comes from them maybe believing that he was the last Avatar.
Meanwhile, the dude and his fetching quest party are literally zipping above them in the skies, and then once they're noticed, they start getting flogged by balls of sulfur, which probably smell like really bad. Like, they're like stink bombs. They're stink bombs in the air.
And like,
it smelled like a Spencer Gifts in there.
And all
Can you
of
imagine
that,
if a Spencer Gifts caught fire?
Oh my god.
How bad it would smell.
I mean, just the chemicals alone in there and the makeup and everything else, I can't even imagine.
Oh
the smoke would be like every color.
Dude, every single prank scent would marry flames.
Here come the dung bobs.
And they'd like overheat, and these like bags of fart juice are just boiling in their
that's too much.
Plastic containers.
So
the firefighters are just getting sprayed.
Is that what you thought about watching this episode, is how bad those fireballs must smell? Right?
Yeah. Anyway, I think we should move on.
Sure.
So we get the aerial battle, and then how do we get out of there? Because there's a perilous drop with Sokka. Sokka, sort of a liability at the beginning of this episode. He's like, now I'm going to fall out of the air.
Sort of a liability. That's actually very astute and plays greatly into Sokka's developing character. So I'm glad that you observed that as a first watch through.
Oh, thank you. I pride myself on being as astutely as possible.
As astutely.
Yes.
So yeah,
I'm an astute grammartist.
let's pull it together and get past the beginning of the episode.
Center. Okay.
So Zuko and his ship, manned by Iroh and other people who are on his ship.
A lot of other people. It's a team effort.
And the ship of Appa and Team Aavatar.
Yes.
Both are heading towards the Fire Nation into enemy waters, where there is a blockade run by none other than Commander Zhao, our least favorite antagonist. By the way, he's the most annoying person. He's the most annoying character to me in this entire show. I will come back to his slow clap onto the stage later towards the end of the episode, but that's how I feel the moment that man's face is on screen.
Right. Like it changes the show whenever he shows up.
Oh, he's
like
the
all
worst.
of a sudden it's WWE SmackDown Tuesday nights at 7 on NBC.
Like, vote him off the island.
Yeah.
What? Anyway.
Exactly.
So
Whenever
Commander
he shows
Zhao
up,
has a
it's-
blockade and therefore feels, I have all the power.
Right.
Throwing fireballs
Master
at the
of the earth,
Avatar
fake.
like it's nothing.
Nothing.
But like Team Aavatar does, and really Appa.
They pep each other up.
And they get through the blockade on skill and luck.
with flying colors, and there are elements flying all over the place. I love the scene where Aang, literally, there's like a fireball headed their way, and Aang is like, dude, there's one clear solution, and that is to kick it. And so he kicks it, and in doing so, he takes a flying leap. And then as it crumbles around his foot, it makes the shape of a donut, and it looks like a chocolate donut for like 3 frames. And I'm sure the animators agreed. So Aang is literally taking a flying leap at a rolling donut.
I love that. He does indeed. And thus, they've made it through the blockade and into the enemy territory in the Fire Nation.
I mean, yeah, the show's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's pretty good.
It's cool. I like talking about it. I like talking about it with you.
Me too. Don't let me forget Zuko. So,
who could forget Zuko at a time like this?
I want to note that Iroh, whose opinion, despite him being Dragon of the West, Fire Nation, General, whatever, I respect his opinion. So far, I have seen him act in wisdom for the most part, and I respect his opinion. And he goes on and says that this is the most foolish thing that Zuko has ever done.
Everybody's backing off around the king, yeah.
And he's right. Zuko's got a tiny ship, and he's endangering his entire crew by being banished from that land and deciding it's fine because I'm chasing the Avatar.
Zuko is A, probably not following the employee handbook to a T, and B, not making the best decisions.
We've got some pent-up rage and teenage angst and
we have rage.
Some entitlement, maybe. Of
the rage. Yeah. He is an entitled person. He thinks he's like Spider-Man before he gets wise. That's what's cool about Spider-Man. He has Uncle Ben right from the get-go. But this guy, I feel like, hasn't learned responsibility yet. I wonder if he'll get fleshed out past this sort of WWE SmackDown All-Stars super dynamic that we have going on.
I believe
live
it will.
On pay-per-view. Yeah, I believe so too.
But the thing is, Zuko is smarter than Commander Zhao, because even though Zhao had all the power, he was like, yo, I bet that Zuko's going to chase the Avatar, so we'll just follow him. So yeah, the entire blockade of military-grade ships just stops and lets him pass, which Zuko better, I think, realize, okay, that's a big deal. And then he tries his, like, smoke trail thing. He tries to, like, lead Zhao on an alternate path because he is smarter than that stupid commander.
Do you remember those little pills that you would get for the 4th of July? Remember those little pills? You would light them on fire, and then it would like keep growing and growing and growing for like 2 or 3 minutes.
Oh yeah.
It would just be like, wow, that looks like ashy dog poop now, you know.
That's a seahorse that's now a sponge.
Oh my god, yeah, it was in the same catalog as that stuff, dude. With the X-ray glasses, you would like light these. We had some weird toys growing up. You would light these things on fire, and it would be like a chemical reaction. It would be like a green sulfuric burn. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the Fire Nation. Just smelly arsenal.
Everything's
smelly
burning.
Weaponry.
It's all burning all the time.
Burning up.
Nevertheless, they all make it to the crescent-shaped island.
Oh, no worries. This looks like the perfect place. Okay, so Siri just told me it's right next to an active volcano. Is that still okay? We could pull over later if you want. It said the next stop is like 24 miles, so.
I mean, I think this is it. Looks like there's kind of like a one parking place area.
Yeah, and I really have to pee. So, let's just pull over here.
You don't have to do that, Sokka.
Sokka? Where's Sokka? Oh. Sokka has, he started falling. Plummeted down. He gets a face full of a catch of the day, a seafood surprise, I think, and then we make our way to the volcano, right? So my read about this episode, from this point forward, it just becomes an episode of MTV Cribs.
This is MTV Cribs, Avatar Roku.
Avatar Roku edition, right. And then Avatar Aang is like X to the Z. He's like, welcome to Cribs. And then once they break inside, there's something really lovely on your notepad.
Yes.
It's a triangle. And at first I thought it was a volcano, but Kaylee, can you tell me what that is?
I like to be very graphic in my notes. It reminds me what I'm supposed to be talking about better than words do sometimes. So I drew a big triangle, which is symbolic of a few things. One is the temple. Another is the array, the way the light will strike the statue, as we have seen in the vision.
Almost as if it's coming from the temple's architecture, like that really, the hard angles and the triangles of the temple architecture, for sure.
So atop the temple, this is the temple of Avatar Roku. It's called the Temple of the Avatar, but I think this is important when we meet the Fire Sages.
Just because it was the temple of the last Avatar doesn't mean it was the temple of, like, just the Avatar henceforth, right?
Well, I think that's part of that pride I was talking about earlier that we see is even though, this is a place that we learn Roku has made himself. He wrought the tunnels through the magma with his own powers. This is a powerful Avatar we're talking about.
This is, on par with the school that we both went to, having a statue of, dare I say, the most famous American astronomist, this astronaut. Timus.
Astronautimus.
Astronautimus Rex. The most famous astronaut, Mr.
He's no Nostradamus, but he's Neil Armstrong.
He's Neil Armstrong, and he's, I think, in bronze in front of the engineering super brain at.
He is in bronze, and there are also his footprints. His footprints from the moon, in, I think.
You can walk his
placed
footprints.
In bronze.
They are bronzed to his footprints. They recreated what it must have been like because he was fancy free. He was stepping on the moon at 1/6 gravity. So the dude had hops. You can tell by the shoes.
Boiler up, Neil.
Boiler up, Neil, and all hail old Purdue and stuff. Anyway, so we're looking at a statue of a commemoration of a legacy, this whole fire temple.
And it's like intimate because it used to be Roku's home.
Yeah, and it was where he like started his whole like philosophical surrounding like, hey, you if you want to like follow me, you can like be a monk over here. And so that's where this whole like fire sage thing started, right?
And for those of you listening who have seen Avatar, like I have many times and are thinking about the other scene in this temple, it's a long ways away. And yes, I'm sad that I can't go there, but this temple is a very sacred, very important place. We'll get back to that in about, I think like 40 episodes from now. So. Excellent.
Because right now I'm of the disposition that fire sages rule, and I'm waiting for...
Fire sages rule, like Shayu?
Shayu, yeah. Fire sages, Shayu, he's the noble one, right? We'll get there. Just watch the episode, right?
Yeah, just watch the episode.
You're here because you've watched the episode, and you want us to talk about it, which is an honor. And so, let's go on. So... regarding this episode, we are seeing Aang grapple with basically the only evidence that he has of a past what everyone else says. Aang is trying to glean a purpose from his life out of the Avatar Roku.
Right, so you feel like he's filling shoes?
That's what I think.
Obviously, the idea that the current Avatar Aang would be able to speak to Avatar Roku is something that the Fire Lord and other firebenders who, I guess, I don't know what word I'm looking for, they've disowned the idea of the Avatar. Roku was the Avatar to them, I think. So they don't want this airbender, this wayward airbender, of whom is the last of the people they destroyed. They don't want to speak to Avatar Roku. That could be disastrous.
And so the gang meets the fire sages, who at first, although I presently think really highly of them, but at first they are a not so welcoming brigade of not so youngsters, right?
Yeah, you got this team of fire sages. Team Aavatar runs for it, and there's one of the fire sages who is named Shayu, who puts himself out there. He betrays the other fire sages by offering safe passage for Aang to get into the temple or the sanctuary of the Avatar.
And these are real ones. I commend the actions of the fire sages, like starting here. I'm like, oh, there are some good pure fire sages. Like there are some good clerics left.
Right. So, and that's basically what he says, right? Is there are some of us, he's the only one standing there, so perhaps he's the only one left. But some of them who believe that the temple of the Avatar is greater, that it is for the Avatar, and that even though it is Aang, a different person standing before him, that he has the same respect and the same reverence for him as his former Roku.
And Dude elaborates on that fact when they go down to the basement to have their little heart-to-heart. I love the art when they're like scrolling, because it looks like they're scrolling through like a purgatory of sorts. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's like we're learning so much about what kind of power Roku wielded in his life before Aang ever speaks with him.
Yes, we are. And just of how steadfast of a following he held on to, even though he's been dead for 3 generations. Like that just shows you like the reverence placed upon like the Avatar, like in all of its iterations, and to think that this world has just been like trying to get along like without one is kind of nuts, and like a ton to think about for a 10-year-old. Just is 12-year-old.
12-year-old.
He's 12.
He's 12, everyone.
It's a lot to think about. So, meantime, they cook up a plan in the fiery cauldrons of the fire temple.
Oh no, they've closed the sanctuary doors, so we can't get into the sanctuary without no less than 5 simultaneous fire blasts.
Simultaneous fire blasts.
That's what it'll take. And then we learn a little token of wisdom. Somehow, that was Sokka's idea.
Yes, Sokka's moment of like clarity and wisdom. He's like, because Sokka really stays in the sidelines. Like he does have that like major mess up at the beginning where he like just falls off of Appa, which was sort of a screw up. So now he's not a bender, so he couldn't like bend his way out of that jam. He's not really like pulling his weight. He's put at a debt.
He's
put at
a significant disadvantage.
Right.
And oversee aerial warfare.
But here's where the dude really like, I think, earns his keep. You know, he
has a great idea. He has a great idea.
And what does he say?
5 simultaneous fire blasts. He just makes like 5 little bombs right quick.
All you have to do is make 5 little bombs. Winning adventurers, it would have won a science fair, but it did not get the door open. However, then, ever so cleverly, they decide that is not how it has to be.
He's a genius. It looks like it worked.
It looks like it worked.
Look at the scorch marks. And talk about top-rate security. Put in some spikes when the doors close.
It's a conversation piece for when you have guests over for dinner, a bedside tea.
Don't want to get pinched in there.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, this is the culmination, the coming together point. The fire sages are there. Zuko is there. Team Aavatar is there, and Sokka and Katara have been chained up to a pillar, unfortunately. Momo is flying off because he's an autonomous creature and pretty smart and can fly. So Momo's pretty good for the moment. And then Aang
he's on fire.
He's
captured. Out of control.
Aang gets captured by Zuko for like a second, but like we know nobody knows how to fight an airbender, so he gets out of it in like another 4 seconds.
Right, and then he Indiana Jones through the door. Oh.
Jumps right in.
And then at first he's like in front of the statue and he's like, okay, spirit realm, what's with the delay? The light is on. It's shining right into like.
And as he awaits
eyes.
the perfect moment when the light will align with the statue's eyes, we learn outside that the doors will not open because, as one of the fire sages who probably knows Roku's great legacy, is that the word I'm looking for?
His sway, his persistent influence on the dealings of all things Fire Nation.
Yes. He knows the way, and so this must mean that Roku does not want them to interfere.
Right.
And then, finally, we have an explanation of the vision, because the moment comes, and I love the light. The deep red light sort of turns like mostly white as it lands on his gaze. It's quite beautiful.
Avatar Roku's like, I know you're excited to see me, but I have some pretty heavy stuff that I have to talk to you about right now.
Are you ready?
Are you ready, kid? Strap in. It's a doozy. First off, the world is like in danger of ending. And the only way that could like not happen is if you do a good job, no pressure.
And do a good job, like a superb job, like do the best job you can and do it before the summer's over, or this comet is going to grant the Fire Lord superpowers.
I'm not going to say like it's a tall ask, but it is a tall ask.
I know you're 12.
Oh my gosh.
This is asking a lot.
When I was 12, I was having a roller skating birthday party. I had let it slip that I did not like it when I saw a balloon about to pop and then it popped.
What? Did that really happen to you?
Yes, I accidentally physically revealed with a revulsion, I had a reaction to a balloon popping because somebody was holding a pin to it and I could see the balloon bending, and only that expectation gave me like a jump. But I was the type of kid where if you found that out at my birthday party, you were just trying to get me to do that again at my own birthday party.
Were you bullied?
But the gifts were great. I don't know. I wasn't bullied. I was beloved.
Oh.
I was like a clown.
Gotcha.
Shout out to Joseph Gruber. But he got me a copy of Tommy by The Who on compact disc because he knew I liked to spin the record in my attic. He thought I should have it on a modern medium.
How nice.
Yes, how nice of him. I think we've strayed a little off topic. But anyway, shout out to Joseph Gruber. Joseph Gruber, if you're listening, I hope philosophy's going well for you.
Same. Best wishes.
And if that doesn't work out, you could always write for The Simpsons, because I heard that's how it goes.
So, shall we return to...
Yeah, Earth? Yeah, probably. So basically, Aang is sitting here watching this really intense episode of Ancient Aliens.
And here we are. We learned that it's paramount that Aang save the world by the end of the summer. He has to master all 4 elements, of which he's only learned airbending to its fullest and has just started like splashing some water around, unless he was in the Avatar state. We all saw him at the South Pole at school.
Yeah.
But he's got a lot of work to do. This is
got a lot of work to do, and the deadline is coming up. It's basically September. So now our young 12-year-old dude, he's got a lot more to take in. And then like when you get that kind of news, what do you tell your friends? That was my first thing, looking at, Avatar Aang's face when he's hearing all this. Like, how do I mobilize these chums?
Well, I mean, it's stuff that he's not going to be able to process until later because they're in quite a dire situation outside of the sanctuary.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're at immortal peril. And then I think your least favorite dude comes rolling back into the scene, doesn't he? Because, okay, we have this little, the FaceTime with Avatar Roku, and then everybody's trying to bust down this door, try to get Avatar Aang and interrupt him.
And in comes, to his own slow clap, Commander Zhao.
Who slow claps themselves? I will answer that question. Dumb people. Dumb people slow clap themselves.
Also, part of what the triangle I drew in my notes is like the head goose, him walking in with his soldiers in tow in triangular form.
Don't you know I'm fantastic? Yeah. Anyway, he's a dirtbag.
Yeah, he sucks, and he's just like, okay, I guess we gotta wait for Aang to come out. Now let's go back to the important part of the episode, which is Aang talking to Avatar Roku for the first time.
Yeah, how does that conversation, what's that conversation tell us, the audience?
Everything that Aang has to learn all 4 elements in a matter of months. That Roku
No pressure.
Was able to send his dragon through the spirit world to give him this vision, which is very powerful.
Yeah, and it's like, I think it makes Avatar Aang kind of contemplate what his own capabilities are.
It makes you, for me,
wow.
like, right before, because Aang enters the Avatar spirit, and we see a very cool, like, manifestation moment that we'll get to, but leading up to that, that makes me question this vision that Aang had entirely. Like, what kind of power does the Avatar spirit wield in that world? Does Roku wield, did he construct the vision and then send his dragon to take Aang all of those places? Like, I can't even imagine that. It's just very powerful.
Aang just has to really decide who he's going to let boss him around. And I think Avatar Roku falls in the category of people Aang ought to let boss him around. And so when he tells him that thing about the comet, Aang is like, oh, no skepticism, just like, yeah, now what do I do?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to not face yourself. He's got to trust that wisdom.
He's got to trust that wisdom, and he's got to trust that he is who everyone says he is.
Yeah, we'll have to see. There's some lovely music playing out our window.
If it is somehow making it through the microphone and somebody can Shazam it for us, comment it on the audio sharing app of your choice, just so that we know what song that was, because it was beautiful. It sounded rich harmonica.
Shazam is buried in like page 5 of my apps, and I just don't feel like looking for it. So,
who Shazams?
how about we Shazam? Wow.
Shazam our way back into the episode.
Yeah. So, Avatar Roku tells Aang, just before the solstice has passed, while his eyes are still alight, hey, there's quite a threat out there. Outside the sanctuary doors, I can help you face it. Are you ready?
Are you ready? And I think he has no choice but to say, yeah, I'm ready.
And he is ready.
If I must.
And he enters Avatar state and then somehow like has this super cool kind of in the spirit world, but definitely in the physical world moment where he gives his body over to Avatar Roku for a little bit.
And such a testament to the scale and scope that this show makes you feel. It makes you feel it all, man. So then there's a little dust up at the temple.
In the form of Avatar Roku wielding fire like nothing we've ever seen.
I can't imagine the insurance company is going to like this.
I think it's his house, which is kind of crazy, but somehow the sages know Avatar Roku is going to destroy the temple.
He's going to destroy the temple.
I love that image of the chains around Sokka and Katara just burning away.
Yeah.
And they stand by him and don't leave until Aang is released from this embodiment situation.
Right, because that conversation, I mean, took a lot of guts to get there, so he's got to hear him out. And now they're getting kicked out pretty swiftly, pretty abruptly.
What did that make you feel to, like, what does it mean to you that Avatar Roku came just to destroy his own temple?
it reminds me of a scene in a book, an important book in the Christian faith, called I think it's pronounced Bible. And it's taken from a subsection of that book called the New Testament.
That's the Bible.
And it reminds me of that scene where Jesus is like, man, I know I'm cool, but you guys are selling souvenirs? Why are you selling souvenirs? I literally do this for free. That's what it reminded me of. What did it remind you of, Kaylee? You know more about things.
Yeah, it reminded me of Jesus flipping over tables in the temple, and also reminded me of the Old Testament tale of God destroying the temple.
The Babel?
The Babel tale, yes.
The Babel tale.
That one.
That would make a dope video game.
I think people have used it
Babel.
a lot.
Babel. Yeah, so then they bust out of that the cauldron, the summer cauldron, just in time, and then Aang contemplates his duty once more,
flying into the full silver moon, which completes this 2-part Winter Solstice episode.
So it went from like random semi divine beast wreaking havoc to just one city to like, okay, dude, I hate to be the one to tell you, but now it's the whole world. What? Oh, the world.
I believe Aang can save the world.
Huh.
What it's all about, man.
Hey, I believe Aang can keep a weird black and white panda at bay by telling it that he loves it and respects it as a little panda beast. I think Aang can save the world. If he can do that, he can do anything.
That's so nice.
That's what we've learned on this winter's night.
And we can't wait to dive in next time.
We are going to dive in next time, and we hope you will tune in for that. We're bound to, if you're following along in the DVD set, we're now on disc 3.
We'll begin with the waterbending scroll, which I hear is one episode that a visitor, a friend of mine, of ours, may want to weigh in on. If you remember Casey from the Warriors of Kyoshi episode. Yeah, I'm not saying, I am saying, hey, Casey, it's time to talk about the waterbending scroll.
Casey, come on down. Let's talk about the waterbending scroll. We'll watch some Price is Right. We'll watch some MTV Cribs. We'll watch some more Avatar. And by the time we do that, we'll let you know what we think about it here on Atlas Shrugged.
Thanks for listening to
Thank
Atlas
you.
Shrugged. We'll see you soon.